All right, guys, UFC 322 in the books here, and Islam Makhachev just absolutely dominating Jack Della Maddalena in New York to become your welterweight champion. Crazy stuff here. We were going into this one. We had so many questions. We didn't know whether or not Jack was going to be able to deal with Islam's takedowns. We didn't know whether or not Islam was going to be able to deal with Jack's striking. And, we got the answers here today. It wasn't the most exciting fight, but you can't take anything away from Islam Makhachev here. It was absolute domination. He won the fight with 19 minutes and 10 seconds of control time. He basically had Jack down every single round, was able to hold him down the whole time. And, Jack, to his credit, was able to survive every single round, didn't get submitted. So you have to give some credit where credit's due. We've seen Islam on top of people and sort of be able to catch people and Das and various other submissions. Jack was able to hang in there, but not able to really throw much output whatsoever. Like I said, it was an absolute domination. Up some stats here, just for those that might have missed the fight or just saw bits and pieces of it, just to tell you exactly how much of a one-sided domination this fight was. And again, all credit to Islam Makhachev for moving up divisions, taking a chance here, giving up his lightweight belt, going up against a bigger and very game fighter in JDM, who put on an incredible performance against Bilal and came in as game as possible for this one. We saw the ferocity that he had when he was coming out into the fight to Akadaka. But yeah, have a look over here. So, Jack, JDM landing 18 of 61 shots. Islam Makhachev was able to find success on the feet, 30 of 57 shots. And I mean, if you really want to have a look here, it's really the shots that got landed by Islam Makhachev to Jack's legs here. That is the real situation here. That is the real, I think, cause of what happened in this fight and the slowdown that we saw from Jack. Islam Makhachev was able to land 10 of 10 leg shots. It was like a low ankle kick. It was down low. It landed every single time around the calf. And by the way, we've seen Israel Adesanya and how impactful those kicks could be. So the game plan, and I look forward to speaking to Javier Mendez to break it all down, but the game plan was a little bit different from Islam. He used those leg kicks to slow Jack down and then took him down, controlled him on the ground. And, Jack did attempt over here. If you have a look over here, he did attempt, to throw a bunch of shots. He just wasn't in position to be able to do it. He also tried to wrestle Islam. He tried to judo throw Islam. But unfortunately, even as it would look like Jack was going to be able to land in an okay position, Islam quickly reversed it. So it was a complete domination, 19 minutes and 10 seconds of control time. And if you guys think about Hamza versus Dricus du Plessis, where Hamza won his middleweight title, he controlled Dricus for 21 minutes. So very, very close, around 20 minutes for both men of control time. You could argue that, Hamzat obviously kind of beat up Dricus's face a bit more, but at the same time, Dricus, those small bursts where he came back and still looked dangerous on the feet. Unfortunately for Jack, he just did not look right in those exchanges. A lot of questions as well. Was he 100% going into the fight? Doesn't really matter. He took the fight. He was in there. It does look like the calf kicks took their toll, though. And Islam Makhachev is now your champion. Now, what does this do to the division? I mean, I'm going to talk to Aaron Bronstetter. We're going to do a reaction show, so check that out shortly after the Dana White press conference is done. We'll get into all the other fights as well. But what does this mean for the division? Because obviously, for those that checked out the fights, they know that there was an almost mini welterweight tournament that went down Madison Square Garden. Let me bring up the results here today, just for those that missed it, so we can sort of quickly go through what's next for the division, try and figure out what could be next for Islam Makhachev, because it's not only what's next for Islam Makhachev, it's who would be an interesting fight for Islam Makhachev. Obviously, there's nothing against being a dominant wrestler. You got to win by any means necessary. But do we want another person who is more of a striker to visit Islam Makhachev? I think we need people that can be more of a wrestling defense threat to sort of keep this one on the ground. But then again, against Islam Makhachev, who would that even be? Let's just quickly have a look here. So yeah, Islam Makhachev obviously defeating JDM, absolute domination. Speaking of dominations, she's not in the division, but Shevchenko just absolutely dominating Weili as well. And just 2 dominations back to back there, 2 wrestling heavy dominations back to back there. A lot of skill, but yeah, 2 long fights back to back there. Now, Michael Morales versus Sean Brady. Dude, Morales came out there and just absolutely let loose using that length. The guy is basically, he looks like a light heavyweight in there against these welterweights. He's so big. Sean Brady wanted to go in there. He wanted to just take a fight, stay active, stay in the picture. And man, you could make the argument for Sean Brady that this was a huge mistake. I was questioning why Sean Brady decided to take this fight to begin with, because I didn't have him entering the title pick. I know Dana White said at the press conference, the winner here could potentially be in a title shot, but we all know that is not who is having the next title shot. Sean Brady could have gone out there and won, and he wasn't going to be having a title shot. We'll talk about who's having the next title shot in a second. Morales winning there. He's not having a title shot either, but an incredible win from Morales that puts him in the stratosphere of 1 or 2 fights away from the belt, depending on what happens next. Of course, there also we saw Carlos Prates versus Leon Edwards, who turned things around and knocked Leon Edwards out in brutal fashion. Leon Edwards' first KO loss coming at the hands of Carlos Prates, who is a fan favorite, right? The fans love him. He smokes the darts. He is the epitome of excitement when it comes to the sport. He's not someone who's afraid to stay active. But you have to look at the start of that fight. Leon Edwards was able to wrestle him, take him down. Now, who is the new champion? Islam Makhachev. And although Ian Gary, it seemingly looked like Carlos Prates was in a position to potentially stop Ian Gary towards the end of their fight, Ian Gary was able to have the same success. Are you telling me we want to see Carlos Prates versus Islam Makhachev next? After what we just saw between JDM and Islam Makhachev, I mean, folks, this is going to be a 3-round, 4-round wrestling domination by Islam where he submits Carlos Prates. I know Prates desperately wants that shot, but again, we got Morales, we got Prates. They both won. We've got Ian Gary and Bilal next week. We'll see what happens between those 2. But I think this is how you break it down. And you guys let me know in the comment section below. Bilal wins, you got to do the Bilal Kamaru fight. I think that's a fun fight next. And if Bilal can go through Kamaru, maybe that builds up enough steam for him to, I don't know, build for a case to potentially fight for a belt. It's a tough one for Bilal. He's in a tough spot. I don't know if he'd even fight Islam Makhachev. I guess we'll see what happens through this fight. But you could say that Bilal kind of has the wrestling to negate things a little bit with Islam. So that would make it a little bit more interesting. But yeah, he's got to get past Ian Gary. And then I would say he would have to get past Kamar Usman. And then he would be there. So if you're Kamaru and you're Bilal, I think that's the next fight. Now, if Ian Gary wins, what do you do with Ian Gary next? It's going to be tough to do an Ian Gary Islam Makhachev fight. I think he'd still be 1 fight away from that. You could do Ian Gary Kamar Usman. I don't think Kamar Usman would take that fight though. I think Kamar would just kind of exit the chat for a little bit to see what happens. Or I guess he could do a Ian Gary Carlos Prates rematch. If Ian Gary is really, really game, he could fight Morales again. This guy is probably one of the dark horses in the division. But yeah, I don't know. The other fight out there for Ian Gary that he could have if he gets through Bilal Muhammad is JDM. These guys have a lot of heat between each other. I'm sure JDM's going to want to be back in action as soon as possible. It won't be February in Australia, obviously, but I imagine in the first quarter of next year, JDM's going to be right back in there. So that could be a great fight. JDM, Ian Gary gets through Bilal, Ian Gary gets through JDM. I think that puts him in a great position for that title shot. Now, Shavkat, we don't know exactly what's going on. And by the way, I saw online Ian Gary was talking about a rematch with Carlos Prates. I'm sure he might want to do that as well because he probably knows he sort of uses wrestling to be Carlos Prates once again. But that could potentially happen too. Shavkat, he's out of the picture at the moment. If he comes back, him and Islam Makhachev would be a very interesting fight. I think there's definitely something there, but he's on that kind of precipice of sort of being out of action for so long now, I don't know if he'll slot right back in there. You could do a Shavkat Kamar Usman fight, which would be a pretty cool fight too. I think if Kamara wants to slot in there, that could happen too. But I think if we're talking about Kamar Usman, right? You know, Dana White was saying how he's the greatest welterweight of all time or whatever. We know that both Kamaru and Islam, you know, have a lot of respect for each other. We know that Kamaru has a good level of wrestling, so this fight could play out in other positions in the fight. So it wouldn't just be, you know, Islam sort of dominating Kamaru the whole fight. I really think there's a possibility as we go in that Kamar Usman will be the next person. He gets the next title shot. Potentially in his last fight, I pick Islam Makhachev to beat him, but I think Kamar Usman would likely be the next person. I mean, Dana White didn't say that stuff in the interview about Kamaru for no reason. I mean, he was talking to Kamaru, so there could be all that. But all in all, I think that's how the division looks to play out. Again, next weekend, we'll have Ian, Gary, and Bilal. So we'll see how all of that plays out. And if Bilal wins, again, I think you do the Kamar Usman fight. That could be really, really cool. I think that's an interesting one to do. It'd be perfect for Bilal. But yeah, I think Kamar Usman probably has the shorthand here for Islam Makhachev. They want to do the White House. They're both kind of big Trump people. That could potentially work out like that. Also want to say, Ilia Topuria, I'm not sure. Let's have a look. Like, has he said anything? Has he said anything online? Let's have a look here. Ilia Topuria, Jack needs an entire camp dedicated to just wrestling. What a disappointment of a champion. Wow. You should go to Georgia to learn something. Okay. Islam, you need something you can't train. Emotion. You're the most boring thing in this game. Every day, I'm more certain I put you to sleep. So there you go. It looks like Ilia Topuria is still in the Islam Makhachev sweepstakes. As you guys would have seen, Ali Abdelaziz, he believes that Ilia is still a chance to potentially fight Islam. He mentioned he thinks he's hiding in the wings to do it. I spoke to Brendan Fitzgerald and some other people before this fight. They believe that it's going to be, a paramount lightweight defense for Gaethje. I mean, for Ilia Topuria next, potentially against Gaethje, Paddy Pimblett. But after what you guys saw from JDM, are you interested in seeing an Ilia Topuria fight at 170 against Islam Makhachev at the White House? I mean, we're at the White House. It's a big fight. Does Ilia Topuria possess the skill set to challenge him in that capacity? Let me know in the sound off in the comment section below. Let me know. Tell me your thoughts on it. But regardless, Islam Makhachev is now entered the conversation. It was one of the best pound fighters to do it. He hasn't lost in, I believe it's 15 years. Let's have a look here. When was his loss? The big stoppage loss here. Yeah. He hasn't lost in a decade. Sorry, not 15 years. But in 10 years, he hasn't lost. He's just won the welterweight belt. He's kind of done what a lot of people were criticizing Khabib for, which is not going up to welterweight. He's done that. He did that against the game champion. He looked incredible with his wrestling. He had really good striking. You guys, you cannot fault Islam Makhachev for what he did. So hats off to Islam Makhachev. It looks like he's going to be sticking around for a while longer now that he's not cutting weight. So that should be interesting. I think for me personally, I'd love to see him be a little bit more active, though, because we need titles defended more than once a year. And with Hamzat not being very active either, it'll be sad just to see the title defended once a year for both middleweight and welterweight. Hey, also quickly, do you guys want to see the Hamzat Islam fight? Would you want to see Hamzat move back down to welterweight to potentially challenge Islam? I know Islam's spoken about that middleweight isn't really the division for him, but do you think that Hamzat could move down to potentially challenge there? Do you think Islam could move down to potentially challenge there in a big fight down the line, maybe next year? Who knows? The pay-per-view system is dead. It's paramount. Regardless, a big card in New York. Benil Dariush, friend of this program, going down to BSD in an incredible win for BSD. Michael Morales, one of the big stars of today, taking out Sean Brady in just incredible fashion. Carlos Prates just showing that he is probably one of the fan favorites in the division now. No doubt about it. He's got the fans behind him. I don't actually think he even needs a title shot. He can just kind of co-headline cards and be that big sort of star on the card that delivers knockouts and gets people happy. But I guess he wants that belt for the pay increase, but we'll see what even happens with money and how much people get paid now we're going to Paramount. And, you know, Valentina Shevchenko just absolutely dominating Weili. Absolutely dominating Weili. Weili sort of dodging the question towards the end from Joe Rogan if she's going to be moving down, but no doubt about it, she'll have to move back down and potentially fight Mackenzie Dern, which makes for a really fun fight. So regardless, guys, sound off below. How much did you enjoy this? Also, Bo Nickel, how about this? K1 Bo Nickel going out there, head kick KO. One of the worst post-fight interviews of all time. Said some weird stuff. Joe Rogan kind of had to put him back in his spot. But yeah, I saw everybody said, you know, no fraud detected. Bo Nickel going out there and doing it in style. And it's exciting because obviously we've got Hamzat at the top of the division, someone with Bo's wrestling and back on a win streak here. I mean, not a win streak, but back in the win column. It's good to see for the division. Anyway, sound off below. Who do you think was the biggest winner and loser when it comes to UFC 322? I've got the big reaction show with Aaron Bronstetter. That drops shortly. And also, how about this? Submission Radio morning after. You guys hearing it here first. Joined by the return of Jimmy Smith. And we're in New York. We've got to do it. We've got to do it right. New York Rick back in the building for Submission Radio morning after. Who knows, maybe some other special guests along the way. Tune in. That's tomorrow. It's going to be 1 hour later, so make sure you don't miss out on that. Of course, all the post-fight coverage coming to the channel as well. Let's see who I can get on after this. There's a lot of discussions to be had. Regardless, yeah, UFC 322, it was touted as the best card of the year. We had some dominations. We had some stoppages. We had some redemption. We had people like Leon Edwards who found themselves in real trouble. Leon Edwards, Sean Brady, yeah, and great champions like Weili sort of brought back down to earth because at the end of the day, you know, the weight you can't trick the weight. At the end of the day, you can't trick the weight. Two different sort of sides of the coin. Weili moving up and having that performance against Valentina, and then Islam moving up and having that performance against JDM. Anyway, sound off in the comments below. What was your favorite moment? Who do you think should be next for Islam Makhachev? Make sure you subscribe, like the channel. Also, jump on, check out Manscaped, 15% off with the code word submission, and NordVPN. Get a big discount on the 2-year plan. That's below to the best VPN in the game. You guys are going to need a good VPN for next year. So jump on and grab the deal today, and I'll see you guys soon.